The year is 1993. We're going to look at the top 10 biggest Marvel comic books of the year. This was a huge, important year. This was the peak of the big 90s boom. Comics had the highest print runs for Marvel since the 1940s. Also unique to our list, our entire top 10 is totally dominated by either rare variant cover editions or small print run books that retailers just did not order enough of. So let's dive in and see what's up with the top 10. Number 10, valuable book of the year, also ranks 39th of the entire decade. It is X-Men 25. This is the gold cover variant. It's a limited edition. It's the rarest variant of this issue. It's the Magneto Fatal Attraction storyline. Print run estimated at only 5,000 copies of this issue. On the CGC census, you can see how few copies there are. Only 284 copies graded in total. There are 210 grading 9.6 or higher. Heritage has only sold one copy of this variant ever. Yes, it has the hologram, so at first glance it might look normal, but it does have a gold cover logo. And this is a rare variant, small print run. In the Overstreet price guide, we can see the book has been stalled in all grades for a number of years. It's just slowly sneaking up now in high grades for raw copies. On the census, we can compare all the versions of X-Men 25, and you will see that there are the 284 copies with 142 copies graded 9.8. Lots of people wanting this book. Wraparound cover with the hologram, but gold logo. The number 9 most valuable comic of the year is Gambit number 1. And this is also a gold retailer's variant cover. Embossed, in fact. There's one copy graded 9.9 of this book. Print run estimated at around 10,000 copies, where the regular cover had a print run of 1.3 million copies. This ranks as the 36th most valuable Marvel book of the decade. 373 copies graded. 265 9.6 or higher. Again, Heritage has only sold one copy ever of this rare variant edition. Overstreet price guide, no movement in the lowest grades, but continually moving up and starting to pick up speed in the high grades. And on the census, there is one 9.9 and 115 9.8s of this book. Number 8 of the year is X-Men 25 again, except this is a different rare variant. It is the black and white cover variant. And you can see it's all white cover except for Magneto on this cover. Print run estimated at only 10,000 copies for this one. Ranks 35, the biggest comic of the decade. Picking up on the CGC census, now 274 copies graded with 126 9.6s or higher. Heritage has never sold a copy of this variant issue. This book is stalled for a number of years in low grades. It's slowly sneaking up in high grades raw. And again, on the census, the CGC, they simply list it as variant cover. And you'll see that there's only 42 9.8s of this book, turning out to be quite rare on the census. Number 7 of the year. This book is not a rare variant, but it is due to the upcoming hot artist Stephen Platt. This was his first artwork at Marvel, and nobody expected anything big of this until they saw the cover, and the fans just went nuts. They loved it. One of the best Marvel artists of the 1990s. This is his first published cover art. It is Mark Spector Moon Knight 55, Stephen Platt cover and art. Print run estimated 100,000 copies, which sounds a lot compared to these variant covers, but that was a very low print run for a Marvel superhero comic in 1993, when you consider that many of the top Marvel titles were selling 1 million copies a month at this time. It ranks 7th of the year, 30th of the decade. There's a lot of copies on the census, 594, with 417 9.6s or higher. Heritage has even sold 9 copies of this book. And on the census, it wasn't moving much at all until this past year. Demand is really growing as this book approaches 30 years. And so a huge growth that more than doubled in the last year alone for this book. There are 217 9.8s of this book. And the number 6 book of the year is also of this title. It's Mark Spector Moon Knight 57. And even though this is the third cover from Stephen Platt, this one has the most demand as it's his first cover of Spider-Man, when comics had $1.75 cover price. Print run estimated only 93,000 copies made of this book. It ranks 28th of the decade. 552 copies graded by CGC with a whopping 477, 9.6s or higher. Heritage has sold 9 copies of this. And this book also went crazy in the last year, also more than doubling in a single year. And even low grades jumping up in price. There are 349.8s of this book. Back to the rare variants. In 5th place of the year, we have Uncanny XMen 307. This is the Pressman Gold Edition. Now, this wasn't something you got from retailers. It wasn't a ratio variant. This was only available as a variant that came along with the X-Men board game that came out at that time. And note that the board game was printed a few times and came with different covers, so we'll see them all soon. So, different cover, color, right? Gold edition. Again, print run will depend on how many of the board game they made. I don't know the print run, so I'm just going with a wild guess of 10,000 copies. It might be higher, but it'll still be much rarer than the likely million print run of the regular cover. Ranks 19th most valuable Marvel of the decade. CGC, very few copies graded, only 63. With 28 9.6s or higher, Heritage has sold only 1 copy. And there's one of the board games. Overstreet, again, it's been stalled in all grades for a number of years until this year. It's had a big jump up. It's almost doubled in a single year. On the census, there are only 17 9.8s. In 4th place of the year is another comic from this same scenario. Uncanny XMen 303, the gold edition coming from the Pressman X-Men board game. And again, just guessing the print run could be 10,000 or higher. Ranks 18th of the decade. 67 copies graded by CGC, 25 9.6s or higher. Heritage has only sold 1 copy. And same scenario in the Overstreet price guide. No movement for a number of years, and now it had a huge growth just this last year. There's only 7 9.8s ever graded this book. This one's a real tough one to find. And it's the death of magic in this issue. Number 3 of the year. This is a book everybody's wanting. Venom Lethal Protector, number 1. The regular red cover edition had a print run of over 1 million copies. But there was a special retailer's gold edition given out to retailers who ordered a lot of copies. Print run was 11,000 copies on this book. It's got the gold holographics foil cover. There are almost 1,000 copies graded by CGC, because this is a very high demand book. Everybody wants it. 609 of them graded 9.6 or higher. Heritage has sold 17 of the gold edition. We want you to notice that there is also some accidental print run versions. There was a 300 copies of a black cover variant by accident, and maybe 25 copies of a gold edition white cover variant pictured here. Ultra rare. It ranks 8th most valuable of the decade. In the Overstreet price guide, it's expensive in all grades, but just a little bit of movement overall. And on the census, there are 363 9.8s, and only 2 of the white cover error printings ever been graded. If this would get listed in the Overstreet price guide separately, it probably would rank as the most valuable Marvel comic of the 1990s. With only 2 copies graded, and with an estimated print run of only 25 copies purely by accident, this white cover copy is one that almost nobody's ever seen for sale. Number 2 of the year, Uncanny XMen 297. And you know the story here. It's another board game Pressman Gold Edition variant. Again, just guessing, print run at 10,000 copies. Ranks very high. Not only is it number 2 of the year, it's the 5th most valuable Marvel comic of the decade. The census is getting higher on this one. 70 copies graded. 26 9.6s or higher. Heritage has sold 1. Again, the only difference is the gold cover on the logo and the leaves in the background. This one has been a valuable book for a number of years, so it just has slow, steady growth in all grades overall in the Overstreet price guide. On the census, there are 12 9.8s. And the number one most valuable Marvel comic of 1993 is Venom Lethal Protector #1, the black cover printing error variant. Print run estimated to be possibly only 300 copies, as these were made by accident. Instead of the red full cover, it is black. The red is missing. And remember, there is the other variant, the white cover variant, with only 25 copies, which most people don't know about. So, on the census, 199 of the black variant have been graded. 169.6s or higher. Heritage has sold 3 of them. This one has huge growth in the Overstreet price guide. In just the last 2 years alone, it has doubled in all grades. It's expensive in low grades. This is a major key book. Ranking the #1 valuable Marvel comic of 1993 and the most valuable Marvel comic of the 1990s is this black cover variant edition. On the census, there is 2 copies graded 10, unbelievably. There's 1 9.9 and 69 9.8s. Now we're going to quickly compare these top 10 books on the CGC census just to look for trends of which books are the most common, which are the most in demand, and which ones are surprisingly rare. Well, the book with the most copies graded is the Venom Lethal Protector 1, the gold edition. That's the retailer's edition. Remember, only 11,000 printed, and yet almost 1,000 of them have been graded already. On the low end, we have the 3 X-Men comics from the board game. Extremely rare in any grade. They just don't turn up on the market. Looking at the highest grades on the census, the Mark Spector 57, surprisingly, is very high with 340 copies, and the Venom Gold Edition with 363. There you go, a unique year for Marvel. Big demand for these variants because the regular covers have such massive print runs. Most of those are actually very cheap and affordable and are going to stay that way a long time. But we're starting to have some breakout hits from this year, including the Mark Spector Moon Knight issues, due to low print runs and high demand for amazing artwork. We do this series every week, so please subscribe to this channel, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching.